Yeah. So I kind of came of age in that era. So like Occupy Wall Street, Arab Spring, uh, the Spanish in Spain, anti-austerity movements in the UK, Greece. This is all late 2000s.
Did you return to Mother Germany to your roots in Mother Germany during that time?
God damn.
I'll read it. It'll be quick, okay? If there's any part that you disagree with, feel free to tell me about it.
Okay.
All right. It's Logic Guy After Dark, the chat show where I talk with my friends and enemies. I let them self-identify. And today I've got probably my most controversial guest so far, J20 defendant, Strasserite investigator, and Nazi grandfather haver, Peter Soeller. Peter, how you doing?
Yeah, and I can go by Sadie, just in terms of references in convo, and as well as online. But no, it's okay. It's okay. You can just.
Do you not want me to say Peter Soeller on it? Because that's kind of important. Because I was going to put Peter Soeller right in the title.
You kind of need to. I mean, I didn't want it to be this kind of way, but like.
Well, tell you what. Why don't I do it again?
No. I'm not talking you personally. I'm not talking you personally. I just mean in like the whole situation in general. Just being like, I just wanted to go. It's like, okay, like Anti-Fash Gordon, for example, who's now like a very, very public figure and like having done like mainstream interviews and shit, and like it's like people know who he is, but he goes by Anti-Fash Gordon, and people call him Anti-Fash Gordon and go by he's Gordon. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the thing in this. What I'm trying to go for, not that I really gave a fucking shit. Like, are you like a huge Dave Franco fan? Is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? It was like no.
I'm pretty into Dave Franco actually.
I mean, yeah, and I guess I'm into like the Gangs of New York era, like river piracy or something. I could cop to that, but it's like it is just like a username at the end of the day, and it's kind of like a persona as well that I go online. The whole purpose, I mean. The purpose is
so Sadie Farrell is a noted BIPOC woman activist who you're impersonating.
Yes,
when did you first? Yes. When did you first decide to appropriate her identity?
When Sean McCarthy was really pissing me off, and I really needed to do some like Irish facing, so.
So you're not yourself Irish, but you decided to appropriate that identity.
No.
Well, yeah, you're not Irish. You're German. Yeah. You're German. Your family migrated from Germany in the 1950s.
I'm German and Romanian.
Oh, okay. So, all right. Yeah. That's kind of a POC, honestly. Like Romanian, that's kind of a POC, right?
They're like off Italians. They're like dirty Italians, so I guess like
I'm gonna assume that you can say that because they're your people, so I'm not gonna comment on it. I have a real question though.
Anyway,
why does our mutual friend Leslie Lee III of Struggle Session, why does he think that you're impersonating a black woman? Because he hasn't just said woman of color, he said black woman. Why does he think that?
I mean, look, I don't want to talk about too much about him and just like that whole thing, because honestly, it just stems from fucking shit posting.
Sure, yeah. This show is all about shit posting, by the way.
I mean, everyone's kind of seen this shit. I became aware of it because of what's the cat account, Queen in Yellow.
The cat account? Oh, okay, yeah, that guy. Yeah.
You know that? Yeah,
I'm
like,
mutuals with him. He's all
like
right.
They're like a Bernie type person or whatever.
Yes, they're very into Bernie.
And they pointed out that Leslie Lee was just like for the past 2 months just kind of like they weren't like pro Dora, they were just anti Jimmy Dore, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
You're talking about Leslie. Who's anti Dore?
Anti Dore, anti the FTV thing, and like Queen was very vocal against that shit as well and all that.
Okay.
So
and then you come into it, and Leslie is saying that you're
the point
impersonating
being
a black
about-
woman.
The reason I mention all these people is that like the whole FTV thing is like the fact that so many different types of people kind of all came together and said it was bullshit or like a publicity stunt or like it wouldn't work or this, that, or the other thing. I thought it was like a kind of interesting growing awareness or recognition that like there's this weird celebrity class in like the quote unquote like left or like what I call it the pop left, and it's like
it's weird. How about the pod left?
Yeah.
You don't like those podcasters.
Anyway, so like I don't, like I make threads. I made a thread about this was in the news with like Enrico Tarrio of the Proud Boys being like a federal foreman, and just was the guy from Utah, activist John, and all, like I was just thinking about all these things and like all these people of color, and I made like a thread about black conservatism.
Okay. That's interesting.
And I put some edgy jabs in there. I didn't call him a black conservative, but I alluded to Adolph Reed and kind of was like, yeah, and it gets to a tendency where people.
No, Adolph Reed is a Marxist, I personally I like Adolph Reed. That's
that's the type of shit. So I talked about.
But just back up for a second. What did you mean by calling Adolph Reed a conservative? I'm curious.
No. I didn't mean. It went into. I was talking. It started off as a thread about black conservatism, and then went off into other figures.
You went off on some tangents.
Yeah.
Those will get you in trouble.
And it was also the thing was like it was a thread that was like fucking weeks old, like beginning of February, end of January, or some shit. So it was like I don't even know what the fuck mindset I was in then. So, but this is the thing is like Leslie was just like fucking going after people and like boosting them up. And like, I mean, like doing it to fucking little posters and shit, like people with like 300 followers and shit. And it's like boosting them up and doing this for like 2 months. And then like, I fucking shot back. And like,
So one of the things Leslie says he's mad about is that you called him, I don't know about this. I'm asking you. He says you called him a black Nazi. Is that true?
No, this is the thing is he screenshotted the thread and thought I was referring to him, and I was referring to Adolph Reed. But I also want to clarify.
Wait, so you were calling Adolph Reed a black Nazi?
No. I want to clarify. I was not calling either of them a black Nazi.
Okay.
But I was just referencing, if you remember, like September 2020, Katie Halper interviewed Adolph Reed, and Adolph Reed talked about American Affair. He talked about American Affairs, and then like Angela Nagel, and like basically the dude behind American Affairs is extremely right wing, and he was fishing for controversial people on the left, like Adolph Reed, and
I do remember this controversy.
Yeah. And it caused a whole stir, and a lot of people liked it because it pissed off the quote the anti-woke crowd or whatever you want to call them. I think.
Because wasn't Adolph Reed like I'm going by memory here, but he was criticizing Angela Nagel, who was like she's like his protege. But I'm just giving some background for people so they understand. Angela Nagel well, just let me give some background. Angela Nagel is like a Marxist writer who's kind of one. I say this very loosely, kind of one of Adolph Reed's like proteges, and he criticized her for writing for this web magazine I'd never heard of, but it what's it called, American Affairs, and it pretends to be like from the left, but it's run by a right winger. That's the long and the short of it. Okay. I mean, it was all right. So you're making a thread about this.
It's complicated because the guy was like a MAGA alt-right guy until Charlottesville. Then he wanted to distance himself from like the overt stuff. So it's complicated, but like he's still like he's still like a white supremacist ideologically. But like anti-Trump. And again,
is the thread still up, or did you take it down?
Oh no, because I deleted it every time. He had been doing this for 2 months, so I delete. This was like the fourth or fifth time that he did it, and every time he'd done it before, I'd always delete it because I just didn't want the harassment. But then, what caused me to respond to him this time was calling me a black woman and saying I was impersonating a woman of color, and it just totally confused me. because I have no idea where he got.
Yeah, do you know what he meant by that? Because there's no evidence of you having.
No,
there's a lot of evidence of you being
all.
quite inflammatory online, but there's no evidence of you doing that.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I think it's very weird that like people that have marketed themselves as like edgy or dirtbag or whatever, like the thing they want to criticize me over is being like edgy and dirtbaggy, which is, it's like you can't, you know, like if you frame yourself as some type of like I'm anti-identity politics, I'm anti-woke, you can't like you then use those same dynamics and frameworks that you were so-called critiquing or whatever. You know, that's what I find like a lot of dishonesty about it, and that's why I don't like framing the discourse in that way of like woke versus anti-woke. We can get into it a bit later of what you want to define with like a woke scold as or whatever, but
oh no,
you know.
I hope honestly I hope we don't end up there.
Good. I mean, like you've mentioned. Yeah, you've mentioned that you actually don't want to fucking talk about cancel culture discourse ever again. So like, I'm there with you too. I think yeah.
I want to be clear. I want to talk about some of the problems collected under the umbrella, but I just want to get out from under the baggage of that term. Yeah, I do want to talk about how I think about how I think, for instance, online and social media really intentionally incentivize this like very like cruel accusatory culture that's threatening to engulf the left and seep into real into like important institutions. I think that's a problem. But I don't know. No one really seems on my side on that. Whenever I talk about it, I can just see people's eyes glaze over.
I mean, I've witnessed this
because I'm talking about.
I've witnessed this with me and few people in my networks that, you know, we've had like residual harassment. It's basically it broke off.
It's residual harassment.
Yeah, no, it broke off from the Friday or Saturday, whenever the hell this happened. I forget exactly, but stuff splintered off from the main threads and shit into other arguments as like people took sides and people then brought up stuff about other people they didn't like, and that kind of like it's like a big like fancy like fountain, you know, like big rich people fountains with all the many pools, and they're like that's kind of how the discourse works. People with the most clout at the top with the most followers obviously have the most influence, no matter who they are and what they say.
Yeah. Which is why I thought when Leslie was like picking a fight with you, I was like, okay, whatever. But when Glenn Greenwald that's when I got really interested.
That's what set off like bells for a lot of people, because like, you know, when most of this stuff happens, and especially like OPSEC wise and stuff, especially with anti-fascist.
Wait, just for the audio, what's OPSEC? Just to find that.
Operational security. So like, you know, if beefs get heated and they get personal, you go into the DMs with anonymous accounts and stuff. You know, you.
And you brigade. You're talking about brigading people. You send sock puppets to go.
Yeah, all that type of shit.
To go taunt them.
So like basically it's like when you see this stuff happen, it stays on left Twitter for the most part, unless a blue check boosts it, you know? And that's what got people's attention with the Greenwald thing, and then suddenly people had to speak out on it, and everyone was kind of like trying to like, you know, just like be like, okay, this is bullshit, no matter what the hell they fucking thought of me, you know? I think one of the
I can say for that.
Yeah. No, as an example, one of the silver linings was like a bunch of mutuals DMing me, like, "Oh, I knew it was you." It was like, I know it was you, or so I know it was you or someone close to you, because it's just like you talk about the same exact shit.
How did people identify you on that new account?
There was a few. I mean, there was a few doxes early. I'd say in like late 2019.
Okay.
So I had the account since I lost the old one. So like July, or like summer 2019 is when.
And by lost the old one, you mean that you were permabanned for inciting harassment against people. Like that would be fair to say, correct?
No, I got the same thing that Amy got actually. It was me responding to a reply guy of that initial thing. So you know how Amy, Amy got banned for doing saying like we got to beat Elizabeth Warren in the primaries, right? Like
yes,
yeah,
okay. You're talking about Amy Therese, notorious crypto left personality.
I'm sorry for dropping that. Let's just not bring that up again unless it's absolutely necessary. Because like fucking entire
no problem. But to bring it back, you're saying that
anyway. Point being, like you asked me a question. Yes. You asked me when did people first like reveal this account? The first one I think was like by Basant Tiagi, who was like a pretty regular Amy Teresa reply guy. Like an actual
I'm not
Stan if you remember him. He was the first one. That one didn't go too viral. But that was the one that Leslie interacted with. Because basically Leslie and a bunch of podcasters were ganging up on him because he was being so ridiculous in their mentions. And then they actually went back and like found shit that I had talking shit on him and boosted it up without realizing who I was. And then Basant was like, "Oh, that's Soeller," and then so that's how Leslie found out about it initially. But like that was information he held on for like. Remember, this is late 2019, so he knew the whole time, and most people knew the whole. I mean, like you knew the whole time. Most people just generally kind of figured it out.
I had no idea. First of all, you had me blocked for all that time, so I didn't know anything about your account. I hadn't thought about any of it. I had no idea.
I mean, I ran block lists on like Fooly Cooley and like bigger accounts like that. Not like big accounts, but accounts that had about like 4,000 to 5,000 followers like that. So that's probably what you got caught up in. I don't remember you.
Well, you did have me blocked on your old account too, though. So I assumed it came from that.
Well, like when I was when Trev asked me about you and I was talking about you, I was just basically like, yeah, you're like an ex dirtbag, if that post dirtbag.
That might be fair.
A post
dirtbag is fair. I'll own it.
Oh my fucking god! I do not want that to be like the new term that motherfuckers are going to be using now.
Well, too late. You coined. That's the name. That's the name of this episode.
Post dirtbag. Yeah. You're like a post.
Sadie Farrell.
And this is like kind of the larger point is that when other people come back to me and be like, yeah, it's like I thought you were full of shit the first time, and I think talking about Reddit is stupid. And I was like, yes, talking about Reddit is stupid. It's like, but you're generally right. And I think a lot of people, I think the Adolf Reed interview with Katie Halper helped a lot of people understand this. And then I think the Jimmy Dore thing and the Boogaloo Boys helped people understand this. Is that like,
you're talking about when Jimmy Dore interviewed a Boogaloo boy on his show, which I have not watched it. Boogaloo. Okay. Yeah. I was kind of offline for that week, but I know it left an impression on a lot of people.
But it's controversial.
I do want to get back to something,
people basically like, yeah, it's like we shouldn't get too focused on the stupid internet beefs with the random accounts. You should focus on like the actual media influencers, like the big people. So, And by big, I'm just talking within this progressive media sphere. Obviously, this is, like at the top of the top. If we're going to talk about like, like the Young Turks people, I guess, or the Majority Report people, but like that's not top in terms of actual, like in terms of mainstream media. They're the bottom of the bottom of the bottom.
Right.
So again, all
Katy
of these
Perry is at the top.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is that when people take a lot of shit out of context, and all these discussions, I'm talking just about the left or like the progressive movement or whatever you want to call it, this larger concept. In that bubble.
So I do want to get back to this. I do want to get back to something though. What Leslie did? Do you consider Leslie having doxed you? Because he revealed your alt.
This is the thing: is that like it's a type of like semi-anonymous already. Like the examples I gave before, like AFG and shit like that. It's it's about the reach, really. That really it's a weird thing to say, but like it didn't. I don't think it officially could classify it as a dox until Greenwald boosted it, and it got the boost that it did, and that the harm that it
yeah.
You know, because it was about a 12-hour or so difference or whatever between when Leslie posted it and Greenwald boosted it. So it was like in that time period, just dirtbag trolls and like the regular shit, you know. It wasn't until Greenwald boosted it that I started getting like far right and like Nazi shit.
Okay.
Yeah. So
interesting.
And yeah, again,
what Greenwald did that I think is really what Greenwald did that I think was really I don't know, kind of despicable is just a few days ago before that he was dragging this New York Times reporter named Taylor Lorenz for doing essentially the exact same thing, and I think dragging her correctly because she was spreading like false smears against this this tech venture capitalist whose name is I'm blanking on it right now, but I'll remember it later. But so he's doing that, and he's, I think, reasonably dragging her for her like poor professional standards. And then 2 days later, he turns around and like I think he literally didn't read Leslie's thread because he claims that it documents that you're he calls it identity theft, but he doesn't mean that you were stealing people's social security numbers. He means that you were impersonating a black woman. But the thread didn't document anything like that. The only thing it attempted to document was that your grandfather is a Nazi named Frank Zoller, which I'm assuming is true from your silence.
No, Zoller and Solar are different names, actually, in German.
Whoa, big if true. Mm. So
yeah,
you're denying that your grandfather was a Nazi, just to be clear.
Yes. That guy's.
I don't personally care because I wouldn't hold you accountable.
Like it was.
I wouldn't hold you accountable for what your grandfather did.
Okay, like it was this type of thing where like I might have stepped out of line talking about stuff that might have been out of my place as a white person to talk about, like about black conservatism and its relationship and all that type of shit. That's right to call me out. Like, go ahead, call me out for that. It escalated into this like whataboutery, like turning it up to 11 type of shit, where it's like I'm now gonna like, if like you're gonna say like this stuff is bad or the people I associate with are bad, then like. You have to be the ultimate evil, and you know it's just like pulling up random shit, putting it out there. It's just like
I don't know why we can't just dunk on each other and make fun of each other. Why does everything have to be conspiracy? Why do you have to that? And why can't it just be like Peter Soeller called me names and he's a dum instead of Peter Soeller is a Nazi?
Yeah, so it's like I don't care about Leslie, and like if he listens to this, like I want him to know, like I don't care, and like it's.
I think he will.
I don't blame. Yeah, he probably will. Like I don't care. Like I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I blame Glenn Greenwald, and to like the role.
Me too.
The role that,
which is why I never took it up with Leslie, because Leslie and I were mutuals, and I never took it up with him because I was like, whatever. This is just Twitter game. This is just internet games. But when Glenn Greenwald got involved, it took it to the next level, and I think it became irresponsible.
Yeah, that's when a lot of people talked about it. I had journalists reach out to me and shit because you know they want to. Everyone, all the journalists love the Greenwald bashing, and they need to fucking, you know, anything they can do to fucking just prove their point, which has actually been hammered home, I think, so hard. It's like literally beating a dead horse, in my opinion. But yeah, they want to use it. And it's a perfect story. Like Greenwald doxes anti-fascist. Like, yeah.
Do you know if did anyone run with the story? Did anyone publish it?
No. I mean, because I refused to like. Put an official statement down. I said, like, if you want to know what I think about this, I was like, if you want to know what I think about this, you can read my tweets, or like, I'm not interviewing and I'm not writing anything for anybody. I'm sorry.
Why did you make that decision?
I don't like I mean, it's the same decision of like, you know, like Leslie and them will claim that I'm clout chasing to get a big podcast and stuff. If that's true, why am I going on like 200 follower YouTube.
Logic Guy After Dark. Yeah, exactly. Some fucking trash channel like Logic Guy After Dark that no one even listens to. Jesus Christ.
Exactly. I'd rather just talk to people that would understand it or like have better insights. And shit. And smaller audiences are better. And like that's why I would choose this rather than, you know, having some journalist write about me or trying to do some like fact check thread or whatever the hell. Someone putting it up on their blog.
I had a I had my own brush with that during when I was during my brief period as a Twitter celebrity when I dunked so hard on Dave Rubin that he stayed up all night getting drunk on boxed wine and trying to get this random guy from Google fired. And I had a bunch of journalists reach out to me, and I gave them statements, and then I went on Jared Holt's podcast and talked about it. So I've been there. I chose the other way.
What was my?
I chose the other
path. My highest claim to fame was like what? Like I think like a Pod Damn interview, and then maybe something else. Like I don't fucking remember. Like it's like I thought your highest claim to fame was Dirtbags to Deplorables, your exhaustive investigation into the stress right left. I have other fucking like wrecker type people that fucking post that shit, and whenever I in earnest to actually share information with people, and when I see it pop up, I always jump in the mentions and be like, I was like, this is outdated. That's like basically my. That's basically what I tell them.
So you don't stand by the reporting of your opus.
No. I mean, I think about like 80% of it is correct, and it's overall analysis in terms of the people I focused on. I think some of the stupid smaller posters and shit like that, like stupid. Obviously, the Felix thing, which was like a fucking prank.
Yeah,
on me.
I was just gonna ask you about the infamous expose of Felix Peterman.
Fully, you can ask Fooly Cooley. Fooly Cooley is directly responsible for that. So it's funny how they like to play that fucking.
No, I actually did ask Fooly Cooley about that because I thought so too. But Fooly says that he was only tangentially Fooly says he only heard about it after the fact. That he wasn't actually involved.
Like the dunk, I understood. I can understand in retrospect because I've talked with Fooly like off or not offline.
Fooly was a guest on this show.
Yeah, I've talked to Fooly before.
If you want to know Fooly's opinions, listen to his episode of.
I've talked to him on voice chat. I did a weird little month-long deep dive into like the Discord servers, just like meeting random people and talking to them and trying to get their thoughts on shit. So I was like, that's kind of also what helped me like better my analysis in terms of the internet side of things, because obviously before that, I had no idea how any of it. Like I'm a young millennial, you know, like. 91, so it's like I identify more with my generation, not so much the Zoomer generation, even though like I'm closer to that one, but like I didn't get a smartphone until like 2014 and shit like that. I identify very much with the Bush era and like that type of technology and that type of culture and that type of shit. So like so like Discord, I had no idea how the fuck that worked. I had no idea how idea how anything other than like Telegram, Wire, Signal, and Twitter and Facebook worked. You know, at that point.
Maybe you really are Sadie Farrell. Maybe you really are a 19th century river pirate.
Yeah, just trying to bring it back. I mean, but whatever. It was good. It was good actually talking to these people. But like, yeah, I asked Fooly about it too, and they were basically like they were a guest mod on the server and they were a witness to it. So, but like, no one really knows who fucking did it. Of course, and like, I don't really give a fuck.
That's what Fooly told me.
The point being is that like I'll see some like actual like honest like serious anti-fascist like good respectable people, like people rely on them for information and stuff, and I'll see them share in earnest the Soeller report, and I'm just like, there's better stuff's been written about this, that like it's been updated and all this type of shit. There's other blogs that talk about the same stuff. There's plenty of videos now, you know, like the YouTubers finally caught on to this and have talked about it. Yeah. So whenever I see people share it, I'm even on my side, I'm always like, I was like, yeah, it's useful if you want to know like about if you want like a little summary of Red Scare and like you know, Amy Teresa and Groypers and shit like that, then it's fine. You know, that's like in terms of stuff about like third positionism or like Matthew Heimbach or like you know, Eric Stryker.
Matthew Heimbach. He's that guy.
Yeah.
What's his like? What's that guy's alt again? I always forget. But he's like he's like an alt right dude, right? Matthew Heimbach. He's like a
Matthew Heimbach. He started.
What's his alt right? But he has like another name that he goes by, right?
No, not all of them do that.
Okay. I'm thinking of someone else.
I mean, maybe he does. I don't fucking know. But most people know him as Matthew Heimbach. He started like the White Student Union at Towson University in like 2014. You know, he's been a long time like white supremacist, fascist, National Socialist, like explicitly identifying as that. He was pretty dangerous and like popular. Like he was getting a following in 2016, 2017. Because he was doing the red brown rhetoric before red brown was even like a term in discourse, you know. So what
do you mean? What do you mean he was doing the red brown thing? Like what was he doing?
He explicitly his critique of the Republican Party was that it doesn't appeal to the white working class, and he was explicitly going into like post-industrial, like totally fucked by neoliberalism, like communities in Tennessee, Kentucky, like places where the left needs to be going into. You know what I mean? Like, so he was going into those communities. And
wait a minute. If you do that, then you're doing Strasseritism, though.
What do you mean? Talking to just like your average Joe at the diner? No. What he was doing with Strasserism, because his ideology is explicitly anti-Semitic, and it's tied with like Jewish conspiracy and that type of shit. You know, he's basically spearheading like contemporary third positionism in the U.S. with that. So he was part of the Traditionalist Workers' Party. You know, and then teamed up with the National Socialist Movement for a bit, but then his life fell apart with the Night of Wrong Wives, where he literally he literally cucked. He got literally cucked. It was so that was a big scandal, and then, like also he's abusive as hell. A lot of stuff came out about him like beating his wife. Like this.
This is all like, stuff that I remember from like 2 years ago.
This is like when I say abuse, it's not like online harassment or like just verbal abuse. Like
you're talking about domestic abuse with his wife.
Yeah, domestic abuse. So like he got ostracized and stuff. And also, like the Nazis, the alt-right, the fascists just hated him because of like the commie stuff. To be honest, they really didn't like that appeal because like anti-communism.
Well, but that stuff is like popular in that corner of the right though. Like Nick Fuentes like uses that kind of.
So this is the mistake, and again, so this is this. So like Richard Spencer's whole thing, the whole like alt-right brand, the whole point of it was to rebrand white supremacy and fascism for the modern era. And so he goes with what's hip, you know, like Richard Spencer was always about the culture and always stayed on top of the culture wars and shit. And they knew it was hip, and they tried to market themselves as some kind of like quasi anti-capitalist. They were doing it early with the like the tensions with Syria as the war escalated.
Yeah.
So like,
Bannon really has his ear to the ground about this stuff, and he's gone on like a Red Scare to talk about it.
So like when Trump,
I'm not so into some of your claims, but that's something that makes me go. Ew.
Yeah, when Trump launched the missiles at the Syrian military bases, and like it started a lot of anti-war rallies, like Baked Alaska and like a bunch of people. Richard Spencer went to them and stuff, and it was weird. You were having like anti-war progressives and like communists and like socialists and shit, and then these like alt-right people come in, and then the anti-fascists are fighting them in the middle of this like anti-war rally. It was like weird shit was going on, you know. It was really weird stuff where it felt like the right really wanted to attach itself to like anything and everything that it could in order to like gain some type of relevance. Is really what I felt. That's what 2017 felt like to me, at least. But then like it collapsed.
I would say 2014 to 2017. I think that they had real, real momentum.
All that stuff. I think Trev covered that well in your interview. That period.
Yeah, I don't really want to get into it. Yeah.
But anyway,
I'm a little confused on how we got here. Is Matthew Heimbach like even mentioned in your big report?
Yeah, he mentioned.
I got Matt Christman here.
I mean, Matt Christman's mentioned only. This is what's so funny about it is like so much was written about all these other figures, like the actual fascists and stuff, and like I'd say like 2-3 lines were written about like Matt Christman. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you got a whole section about Heidi Matthews though.
Look. If you want my opinions on like the Chapo crowd, and just to get this out of the way, is that like I think
let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I think they're ridiculous. They're privileged. They're funny. They don't know shit. That's not their fault, given the positions they're in.
I think it varies widely. I think it depends on the topic. I think some of the things that they know very well.
There's a lot of factors went into how they got to where they were. As this like this big left platform, like the voice of the like that was cast. That was something that was like. They climbed to and also was cast on them is like I don't think like in even 2014 that anyone involved in Chapo thought that they would be where they were in like now, you know you know what I mean.
They've said as much many times.
Yeah. So it's like my attitude toward them is my attitude toward Jacobin. I think a Jacobin's a bit worse because they have a connection to material organizing, but like. My real problems with Amber. Amber's a huge pain in the ass to my camp, my political tendencies. And Amber kind of just to interject something. Amber sort of confounds what you just said because Amber is the one who probably most of all doesn't have a background like a privileged background and upbringing, and does actually have real roots to real activism and everything. I know this is why with this, it was like the alt-right too. Not just to do compare and contrast, but like Milo Yiannopoulos. Like I was saying, like Enrico Tarrio and like Jovi Val, like all the Latino and Black MAGAs and all that type of the gay MAGAs and all that, gay Proud Boys and all that type of shit and all that, like weird intersectional like identity fascism where you'd have like different people from different like marginalized identities coming together to like hate on other different groups of people. So like Milo was trying to like rally the conservative gays against the Muslims, and then like all this type of weird ass shit, So it's kind of like this with the Chapo stuff. It's funny because it's like. The dudes get so much shit when their actual political views are relatively normal social democratic views. They're pretty edgy and they say fucking outlandish shit. But in terms of like actual political worldview and like ideology and shit, like Amber's a conservative out of the 4 or 5 of them. So like, Matt. As far as Matt, anyway, just last point on this. I think it's actually better that it kind of broke apart. I think it's better that Virgil is where he is. Bree.
Virgil still is on Chapo though.
I mean, I don't listen. I haven't listened in years. But yeah.
In your report, you call Virgil In your report, you call Virgil the nice guy TM of the podcast. I agree. He's a sweet boy.
He's a sweet boy. Yeah, but that was before I learned other stuff. We're not going to get into it. Anyway, and then like Amber does her writing thing, and then Matt Christian does whatever the hell it is he does on Instagram. But like, each of them are kind of branched out into their own self platforms. So it is what it is. I think we're in like Chapo did its thing, and we've moved beyond that, and other media has kind of taken the place. It's like maybe something a bit more serious. How can we merge the humor with something that's like informative or something like that, and all that type of shit. So
yeah, I don't know what the future holds, but it's gonna go down.
It was basically.
I was going to say it feels to me very 2016.
It was basically a like Daily Show for like the 2010s generation. You know.
Yes, I think that's absolutely correct. I can't imagine anyone actually disagreeing with that assessment.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. As far as like the fashy shit goes, or like platforming stuff, like what it comes down to is like they'll go along with the jokes of people who are bad, or like they'll say something off base or something. But like the real problematic person would be Amber, and like just the conservative, this very anti like libertarian socialist, like libertarian left. Very much like.
Do you think it's a little odd that or a little inconvenient that you honed in on like the WOC on the crowd to on the show to single her out? Like, does that seem a little iffy?
Not at all, because the analysis tracks. I mean, like. Yeah, here's an edgy take. You could argue that this is the one case where patriarchy does some benefit, because the internalized misogyny of like Christian and Will allows them to like speak over Amber and thus prevent the amount of airtime in which she could say something fucking batshit and conservative. So.
No, I mean, I'll be honest. I kind of wish that they. Oh, never mind. Go on.
Yeah, I get it. No, my problem is, then there's the other side, I guess like your Foolie side or the Amy side or whatever, that they have their critique of Chapo, and they would say the complete opposite of me. They'd be like, all those dudes are fucking trash. Fuck them. They don't know what they're talking about. They're all secret libs.
They're rad libs, jockeying for careers on MSNBC, which is something that you say of Virgil in this article of yours.
I mean, they are all. I mean, they are liberals, and they come out of that, and they based their brand as like a left of that, or like as like an opposition to that, like a court jester almost type of thing.
Why do you consider them liberals?
I mean, they're in a mainstream sphere, and what they push for is very electoral. I mean,
they have an independent podcast. I don't know. I don't know if they're not that electoralist though. Like they kind of unplug during the general election. They're electoralist during the primary. I'll give you that.
Yeah, and then they talk about movies for the next 2 years, and then when it's an election season again, then they start talking politics. I mean, okay, that's a bit unfair and like oversimplified, but
I think it's unfair for a couple of reasons. I mean, one, I think that you can use entertainment as a lens to examine politics, and secondly,
I definitely believe that. Yeah,
they do a balance. They try to balance. They try to do like an entertaining podcast, but then also
that's the
talk
thing.
about like real issues.
I like their culture. I like their culture shit. Like if it's just like what it basically was
labor organizers as well.
I mean, like what it basically was just the convergence of like the Jacobin crowd and the DSA crowd and like the podcaster crowd all into this thing for like the Bernie Sanders campaign, and like it just felt weird to me because it's like. Not all these people gonna get along,
Are you a Bernie critic?
Oh, I mean, as an anarchist, of course, because he's like a sockdown politician and shit. But I actually, out of all politicians, I admire him the most, or in some ways more than others.
Did you support him during either primary, 2016 or 2020? I'm just curious. I'm just asking.
I wouldn't. I don't do that. I don't like.
Did you vote for him?
I haven't voted. I haven't voted in an election since 2012. I gave up on voting a long time ago. But I still, I still understand how the fucking system works and how elections work and all that shit and what's important and all that type of thing. So I had what you would call critical support for Bernie, or like I would have preferred him to have been the president. There's people are going to be fucking debate. People are going to be debating the what ifs of like an imaginary general election, 2020. Of like, if it was Warren or Bernie going up against Trump, what would have happened? It's like, We don't fucking know, and you know, people are gonna be debating that for years at this point. But I can't make the argument.
Lost.
Yeah, I can't make arguments about strength or whatnot. I really can't. I honestly think that with the tipping factor was that just everything was collapsing so fast, and the dude was just like, yeah, it was a burning ship, and I think a lot of people that motivated a lot of, I think, mainly like apolitical or liberal-minded people to kind of just go out, which is why the turnout was so high, or as well as the mail-ins. The mail-ins definitely made the turnout really high. So
yeah.
And again, that gives a glimpse to some reform future. Again, I don't want to get too much in elections, but like, yeah, I have a whole analysis of what I would think good reforms would be, but I'm not going to get into that. But yeah,
you're ahead of me because I really have no idea why Biden won.
I would have liked Bernie. I mean, yeah, I predicted it wrong too, so like, I'll go on record for that. I literally thought. I mean, it would have helped my argument more in terms of like, yeah, this is Trump. He's gonna be president for 100 years, and like, nope. Anyway, but yeah, I admired Bernie specifically because he seemed his views were social democratic and like honestly social democratic. There was no vulgar deviation of it. You know, it made sense why he believed what he believed, even on like stuff like foreign policy that I disagreed with him. Like him supporting drone strikes and shit, it made sense from his perspective in terms of like I actually like read his statements on this stuff and watched his like more in-depth interviews, and it's like from like a materialist perspective, it's like if this is a tool that I have, you know, in terms of like protecting like the Kurdish regions in northern Syria and stuff from like an advancing hostile force like ISIS, you know. Shit like that is, you know, I understand it. And again, just bringing up Rojava in like Syria.
You talking about foreign policy makes me want to ask you about was Bappin, but I'm not sure if I should.
I mean, we'll get into that at the end of this little bit because it's relevant. But yeah, no, it put the anarchist movement and the anarchist movement and the left in general, the Western left, doing its critical support for northern Syria. So for your listeners, this is
we're talking about Rojava, right?
Yeah, it was a Kurdish region, but also it's multi-ethnic, and they're trying to build like a multi-ethnic, like Unitarian society like that.
This is where Piss Pig Grandpa was stationed.
Yeah, a lot of people have been treating this like the Spanish Civil War. A lot of international fighters. So they're basically democratic and federalists, which is like a form of like libertarian socialism or libertarian anti-capitalism.
Aren't they communists? Aren't a lot of them communists?
They have a weird history. They used to be Marxist-Leninist org, but their party leader Öcalan read Murray Bookchin and other authors and stuff, and developed a theory of democratic and federalism, which is now the ideology they go off of. So basically, if you look at the political compass, they switched quadrants. They just moved down one. They're still on the left.
They moved from upper left to lower left. They went from authoritarian left to libertarian left.
Yeah. So
they went from book burning to pot smoking. Got it.
But but still a lot of internationalist fighters are MLs. The majority of foreign fighters are actually Turkish Marxist-Leninists, which is funny because a lot of Western Marxist-Leninists are like all about the Assad standing and think that Rojava is just a CIA op and all this type of shit. It's very complicated. It's really weird how imperialism works and how certain players are used and manipulated by these great powers. So like, you know, what does it mean? What does it mean when like the U.S. is like training with you on the ground and providing air cover to prevent ISIS from like killing you, and also arming Turkey, who's sending in the militias and to kill you in the same. So it's this weird type of like. That's why I don't like the tanky analysis, or I don't know if you use that word or not. I'm trying to stop using it because I don't think it's correct.
I'm fine with it. I don't have any objection. But like, what specifically do you object to when you say tanky analysis?
It's too basic. It's too basic and it's too campus.
But what's the tanky analysis? Just that they're like
I mean,
Assadists who think
anything,
that
or
who
not,
think
no,
that
it's
the
it's
CIA
more than
is-
that. It's more than that. It's more like anything that's anti-American is necessarily anti-imperialist and good,
Right, yeah.
and we should. Oh, yeah.
Got it.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that one, 100%. I think it's a very close-minded way of
it's a
looking at it.
trope. I mean, if you know anything about the history of the left, you know it's a classic trope. You know, the trot in the back
Yes.
of the
Classic
back of the
trope.
room. It's a very classic trope of like the
Yeah.
Stalinist or like that type of mentality. You know, that being said, there is like a new type of Marxist-Leninism now, which I guess grown to appreciate as I've met more people who identify as such. That aren't campist or dogmatic. They're basically Leninists, I would say. They understand Stalin fucked up and shit like that. So like I understand.
Okay.
You know, it's good to. I think it's very weird. People have a very. I mean, again, like you're saying with the discourse in Twitter, Twitter kind of like tends toward this of like everyone lives in absolutes. So it's like. You critique one thing about what some
which makes
country does.
for great discourse.
Yeah,
That's why that site's so fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's why
that site's so fun. Yeah. I want to read this tweet of yours, and we can end on this. Okay.
Okay.
The alt center is literally just 5 people who worship Wes Bappin and Brett Bellitz. That's it. What does that tweet mean?
I mean, like, bro, photo princes. So if you ever squared with Wes Bappin, you've always had him in your mentions. So,
I have never squared with Wes Bappin. One of Twitter's most notorious accounts.
So, like, basically, like the whole tanky caricature of like the anarchist position on Syria is like, you're just secret neocons that want to like ally with Al Qaeda and destroy Assad and murder everybody, and you want to invade Russia and take it over by force. And so that caricature,
wow,
Wes Bappin made that real, you know. So
okay, so the tankies manifested reality is what you're saying.
I mean, I guess. I mean, I've thought. I don't remember him if he ever used to. I met him when he was fucking unhinged. So like, excuse my language for it. Like, yeah, I deal with.
That's okay. I was not going to.
I deal with disabled problems too and shit. We can talk about in the DMs, whatever. Let me say it. God damn it, the fuck. Yeah. So like,
yes, that's. I'm letting you say it. Go for it.
Anyway, so like. That's what, like, I always knew him when he was a bit unhinged. So it was like, I don't know. People told me that they knew him back in 2015 and stuff when he was a bit more normal, like liberal progressive or whatever. I don't fucking know. Like, point being is like, he's basically says the most weirdest reactionary, like neoconservative type takes, even though he denied being a neocon. I think because his critiques are the neocons are not imperialist enough or something like that. But yeah, the guy's a total fucking. The guy. Yeah, it's just it's not worth talking about.
But you have some history with him, right? But
oh yeah, because I've gone back and forth. Because I basically said that I was like, you need to fucking change your tune or actually like shut the fuck up because like. You've turned the Syrian civil war into a Twitter meme, and that's like it's very insulting to a lot of like refugees and activists and like people who've fucking been murdered and shit. You know, people who've lost like their entire lives, their country. You know, so like, I got to him to cut out his bullshit and stop. It was like I also kind of interrogated him on his views, and I was like, you can't be like literally. You can't like actually stand like HTS and like Al Qaeda and shit and like Nusra Front. You can't actually.
What's HTS? I don't know what that is.
They're all different.
What's HTS?
They're all different rebel factions that are more like Al Qaeda aligned or influenced by that type of ideology.
HTS.
Don't tell me what it stands for. Okay. I can't pronounce it, but yeah. We're not going to get into.
Yeah, we're not going to get into. It's a Sunni Islamist militant group in Syria.
Look, we've already done way too much fucking foreign policy talk for this episode, so I really don't want to get into any more details.
Yeah,
but,
no. I just want to put things in context for people.
Yeah. So yeah, he's basically like a neocon troll who literally wants to like nuke Russia. He basically thinks he has an ideal of American democracy that's not real. You know, that whole idealistic you can, you know, it's like it's like Team America World Police, but like not a satire. Like he actually thinks that's what we should be doing.
do you think that he's a troll or do you think that he's on the level? Do you think that these are real opinions that he holds?
I mean, this gets into some of the shit that Trev was telling you about the trolls he met in Discord. You know, there's a lot of in terms of covering the Syrian conflict with journalists and different reporters and like watchers and shit like that. A lot of different chat groups and threads. There was a big internationalist thread which had like all these people. I was in a thread with Waspapin. Yeah, it was weird. Sean McCarthy was in the same fucking thread. Oh, weird times. It was all back in like 2018.
And you guys were best friends?
Oh, no. No one got along at that time either. But yeah, I've seen him in other threads too, where like it was Turkish, like AKP, the ruling party, like Turkish party members, and this like weird, like very pro-Turkey accounts and shit, Turkish nationalists and shit like that. And I was like, I don't know, could he be being manipulated by like Turkish intelligence or something? I don't know. Let's not go there. Like whatever the fuck. But like I saw some weird shit.
I'm not saying I don't have my own paranoia, but I always I always kind of scoff at that. I mean, I do find myself wondering it sometimes too. But I let my my common sense prevail.
I was legit contacted by a Russian troll in 2016, and I didn't know until much later, like years later. But I did an interview.
What did they want from you?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same bullshit as it always was. They just want you to like write articles or take pictures and send it to them of like protest activity or whatever. Okay. You know, the same shit that you would be doing as a photographer anyway, but you should like sell to like an organization that can actually pay you. Yeah, just weird shit like that, cryptic, you know, all anonymous type of names and stuff. Talked to him on the phone once. Had an accent, really? Obviously.
Wow. So you had a close relationship with this Russian troll?
No, it was like a week-long thing. He told me to write some stuff. Sounds kind of like a
close relationship, honestly.
It was a one-time phone call because I wanted to confirm who the fuck he was, and it sketched me out. So I stopped responding to emails, but he kept emailing me as late as like October 2016 and shit. But it started in like June of that year. So like again, like as the election's heating up or something.
Interesting.
It's stupid.
Everyone has these Russian troll contacts except me. What's going on?
I don't know.
If any Russian trolls would like to reach me, my DMs are open. Please. I'd like to meet some new people. Yeah, thanks for coming on, Peter. It was a great, AKA Sadie. It was a great conversation. Say hi to your grandfather. I'm gonna edit that part out. But yeah, it was good. Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
But yeah, thanks for giving me the chance to talk. You know, I'm not a crazy nut job. I am in some aspects, but not in like being able to like coherently talk about ideas. So yes, thank you.